Shabbat Shalom. Ana Aik of Aik Chillet to Christ, Mashalam Chi. Shabbat Shalom. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. We appreciate you so very much. We're honored, we're energized, we're ready to go. Hopefully, all is well with you. Hopefully, you're staying warm. Hopefully, keep staying in your word, which is more important even than the warmth, believe it or not. And we're excited about what the Most High continues to show us as His people. So, thank you again to everybody for being on all the different platforms that you might get this recording possibly later on, or those who were with us live on the podcast. We honor you. We're thankful for you, and we look forward to being able to get into today's topic, which really is not so much a topic, but Q&A. So we are coming before you guys today with Q&A, ready to go, and or what you guys hopefully are ready to go with questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and prayerfully, we'll be ready for those questions that may pop up in different ways, shapes, or forms throughout our assigned time today. So we're looking forward to those things. If you want to put them in the chat, if you would like to call in today with a question, whatever the case is, and we will do our best to be able to answer it, whether it be based upon topics that we've been talking about, recently on our live sessions, or if it just be something that's in your head that you'd like to be able to ask about. Now, just to let it be known, we're going to come through the prism of the word of Yah. And we're going to, this will be a safe place for your answers and everything, but we do want to acknowledge and make it known that yes, while this is a safe place for you, and while we are working on hashtag we be the nation, and that's the nation, we want to make sure we make it as safe as possible. We do also want to be honest and just make it known too that we have a certain way of doing things, so we're not trying to irritate anybody or dismiss anybody's thought, but we do ask for respect. Right. We also believe, therefore, we should give you the respect back. So before anybody calls in, we just want to make sure that that's known and that's thought of. And so there's no questioning about that, or saying that we're saying one thing or we're just canceling persons, or we get told all the time how we block everybody, which is not even actually possible for us to be able to do virtually or physically, whatever. But that being said, we do want to make it a point to let everybody know that before we get started. That being said, thank you, everybody, for being on. I appreciate you. We'll go ahead and get started. And so anybody who does have any questions, comments, or concerns, once again, feel free to call in. Or if you'd like to be able to put it in the chat, and we will try to get to your question in the order in which we get it. And since it is what we have, about 40 to 50 minutes left, so I will try to answer them as quickly as possible, as succinctly as possible, but I will try to answer it to the best of my ability. So we have Elder Anais on, I believe, they called in. Welcome on to the podcast as always, usually as a preacher, but even today as somebody who has a question for us. How may we help, or what might be the question, comment, or concern?
Well, I want to know, when the believers pass away, is heaven, do we have access to heaven, or we just rest?
Okay, excellent question. Thank you for the question. So when the believer, now I'm going to make sure before we take you off the call, let me double check and make sure. So we're talking about specifically, if I were to pass away today and I were to go away, would I immediately go to heaven, or would I just be asleep, and then when the time comes, would I go to heaven? Is that the context?
Right, because according to Revelation, it tells us that the dead in Christ will rise up to heaven.
Right.
Doesn't it say that? I read that some years ago. I'm not sure.
No, you're right. You're right, because also then Paul talks about us being asleep as well. So it could be something where it seems like it's two different things, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you for the question. We'll keep you on just for a little bit, just in case, so you can let me know if I answered it or not. We'll come right back to you. But just for, so right now, to start with that, it's that whole thing of eternity and time, right? Which makes this question sometimes more difficult to talk about. The eternity and time, two different things. Well, yes, really, two different things that exist. If you want to look at it this way, time is a timeline. Eternity is a circle, if you will, that the line goes through. Like you could say almost like time is a radius or a diameter within the midst of eternity. Eternity is a circle, constantly turning, constantly shifting, or really, if you want to even look at it, it is what it is. Eternity is. And then in the midst of it, you have these different little time radiuses or time segments, really like, or even in eternity, you could call it a timeline where so-called chronologically speaking, we could continue to go on and on and on and on and on and on in a direction in time, but that's eternity, right? Even if we look at it in the midst of this, if we have the universe, right? So-called what we call the universe, right? The single spoken sentence that we live inside of, that all things created are inside of. If we even look at this, the universe versus even where we are, we look at space-time continuum. If you were to go a little further away, right, like to where the space stations are, and I'm just going off of what scientists say. I obviously have not been there, right? But that being said, if you go, a little, relatively speaking, but a little ways away from Earth to a space station, right? They have to change what we consider to be time so that the same time it is where you are can be the same time where they are, because time is relative, right? So the further you stretch or the further you go away, the seconds are different, right? And if you're moving at a certain speed, time is even relative, right? For example, if I'm standing still, right, and Elder and Ice were moving behind me, and I were to stand still, and then she were moving behind me, and we were both to see something at the same time in the same spot, but she was moving into that spot, and I was standing still at that spot, we could look at the same place in the sky, and it would look different to us, not only because, of course, we see differently, but also because one is moving and one is not, right? So time is always relative, right? Our time, right, collectively is also not our time collectively, while it is universal, right? If that makes sense. Eternity and time, and I still can't make sense of all of it, obviously, but I'm starting to get better at comprehending, okay, time in and of itself is a concept, right? Now, if we're talking biblical time tells us where we are in eternity, but how we look at time is a concept based upon like really our specific perception. you know so we have to think about that in time and in eternity. So now taking this same prism, right, to the author and finisher of our faith, who created time and created eternity and has created this place called heaven, and is allowing us to have glorified bodies that we might enter into after we die, right, to go to heaven. For us, if you talk about in time, how we perceive time, right, it's like a yes and no answer in this regard. Yes, when I pass away, right? Um, unless it's hard eternally. It's hard to answer this question in eternity, right? And time. But like, so when I pass away, I will pass away according to the word. When I pass away, I will enter into, you might say, like a sleep state, right? Or because really I won't be, and really it won't even be like sleep in the regard of what we think. Like, if you think about it this way, when you go to sleep, even though you could be restless and stuff like that, you're going to have perception of time. You're going to have a dream in which you think you've lived a whole other life, and then wake up and be like, wait a minute, I've done that plenty of times, where there's stuff that I have PTSD from certain things that happened to me in my military career. And so I'll wake up sometimes, like, but my dream, I swear, like, I'm like, well, wait a minute, how I get back here? And I'm doing this and blah, blah. And I end up going through this and that. Sometimes I've gotten in trouble. I've been thrown into bricks sometimes because of my belief or blah, blah. Like, I'm still sitting there, like my family's going through this. I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm in the bed, and I swear I had like lived like 60, 70 years, right? So even in that, time is relative, right? But that being said, if we go into a sleep stasis, if you will, I hate to call it like that, but I'm going to use movie generalities and different scenes maybe we're familiar with. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Alien, right? Or even Aliens. I think they do it in both. I think they do it in all the Alien movies just about. And they'll go on these long trips, and then they make sure everybody's asleep. Or they did it in the movie with Matthew McConaughey recently, where he went into a black hole and all that, right? And he ends up being, he's older than his daughter, but he's younger than his daughter at the same time, stuff like that, right? It's kind of like we go into a sleep stasis, right? We're in a place where, we are waiting, and really it's because we have no body. Remember, we are 3 in 1. The only way we're even qualified to be on the earth is we have to have a spirit that's in a body and a physical body, and that spirit and physical body are connected by a soul. So when we die, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, for sure. Here's the deal, though. You have no body, no physical body. That's how you were created. So your spirit and soul go back unto him, right? And so, but you could say now we're in a sleep stasis. We're just kind of waiting in eternity, right? In time, you might say we're like in a sleep pattern, but eternally, we're waiting and waiting and waiting in eternity. But at the same time, in eternity, we also have received heaven, right? And we have the, and being eternal beings, from time to time, we get this in our spirit and soul, and sometimes in our body, but we don't even know. That's why somebody brought up the question the other day on one of the Q&As about deja vu. Deja vu really in essence is, okay, something eternally has happened, or I'm getting the word, or I'm getting the vision or something like that, but because I don't quite comprehend eternity yet, and I'm still more so in time, I have this moment where it's like I've had an out of time experience, not an out of body experience, but an out of time experience. So there's a lot of that going on. That being said, also too, now let's look at this. Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. It tells us that there are those, after it tells us about the 4 horsemen, it tells us that there are those who are basically aware of what's going on. These are faithful martyrs who had their lives taken. Really not even, I don't think has their lives taken, just faithful martyrs. Martyrs means faithful witnesses. So persons who did certain things to a certain degree, it says that their spirit and soul is aware enough to actually cry out to Yah and be like, when are we going to get vengeance? So in that sense, there are persons who, because of how they lived and different things like that, it's not necessarily purgatory or anything like that, but it represents them. And it could be purely representative too. We have to take that into account as well. But let's say it's not purely just representative or purely like something to help us as a parable. Let's say that these persons just said they are under the throne, right? And under Yahweh's throne, and they have not been given the opportunity to see vengeance yet, and they have not been given glorified bodies yet, so they're still not whole. And they ask for vengeance when it's going to happen, and Yahshua says, "Hey, just be patient, give it time," right? And he says vengeance basically is his. So we can look at that aspect of things. We can also look at the fact that, if one were to die today, and then all of a sudden we'll wake up, in front of the throne to be judged and then enter into heaven, right? Because that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to heaven, right? Right? Everybody, right? We're going to do what we're supposed to do, right? So we're not going to focus on the other side of things. We're going to focus on the heaven part of the question, right? Because that was what the question was focused on. So if we're doing what we're supposed to do, we're going to end up entering into Shamayim. And so when we fall asleep or whatever, it's like falling asleep and waking up, right? And remember, we have different things there too. We don't know war anymore. We don't have pain. We don't have sickness. We don't have sadness. Like there are things that are gone. We're a different creature, like even literally going to be given a glorified body to the point to where we might not even recognize ourselves, because even versions of ourselves that exist now are, as much as we're learning how to, love ourselves and stuff, there's certain things that never should have happened to us because sin entered in. So there's a lot of aspects to that. And that question. So it's kind of like, I hate to give yes and no answers, but technically it's like yes and no, as far as, yeah, there's eternity and there's time. Just like we teach, the Bible says in Revelation 20, the devil will be put into hell, but he's not in hell yet. But in eternity, is he already in hell? We could say yes. But in time, the place that we are documenting eternity, like as far as the timeline that we're on, right? This timeline, this specific timeline of Yah, where we are right now, right? Is the devil in hell? No. Right now, if you go further on the timeline, in eternity, it already has happened. Past, present, and future exist at the same time. Right? It's like if something travels at the speed of light, it's at a present state of everything freezes. If it goes faster than the speed of light, everything slows down. Right? They actually start. No, excuse me. The closer you get to the speed of light, the more things slow down. Once you get to the speed of light, everything stays still. Once you go faster than the speed of light, everything goes in reverse, which means that all times exist, right? Light exists, or well, anything that can travel faster than light exists in the past. But if it has the ability, like the Most High does, to also slow down, he can be in your present to where he's right where you are. But if he slows down enough, he actually gets to a place to where now he starts going forward in time like you do. right? So past, present, and future is different to him. So when we have a conversation about eternity or time or this and that or whatever, that's it kind of starts going into that lane, those lanes, if you will. So prayerfully that makes sense. Did I answer the question, or just about, or at least to the best of my ability? I hope I answered.
Yeah, you answered it. But also the Bible talks about someone being in heaven and someone being in hell.
Mm-hmm.
And asking the one who's in heaven to drop a drop of water
to be put upon their tongue, right? That's Lazarus the rich man. And yeah, so once again, Christ is describing. Now, once again, we don't know if this is a parable or not. It's not really said, but let's just say this is not a parable. It's something that's happening real, which it could in essence have happened or be happening. Once again, somebody in time, in the present, is telling us about something that's going to happen possibly in the future. So now we go to that's why I would say I was focused on the heaven part. If we focus on the hell part, okay, well then, like, somebody can be in hell, but also too, like, everybody must go before the throne, right? Everybody, according to Revelation 20, everybody goes before the throne. My uncle used to say it like this. Pastor Wilbur, he used to say it like this. He said, everybody gonna go to heaven, but not everybody's gonna stay, because everybody's got to go before the throne. So everybody will go before the throne, right? That's guaranteed. Everybody go before the throne because you got to be judged, right? And they're going to judge you according to Revelation 20 out of those works. If your works, right, so if you said you had faith, they're going to look to see what your works were in the books. Doesn't mean that you can't mess up. That's why we have the blood of Christ to cover those sins. And as long as we repent, right, and we are earnest in our, asking for forgiveness, and we forgive others the way we want to be forgiven, we condemn others the way we want to be condemned, and we I'm missing judge others the way we want to be judged, then yeah, if we live to that standard and we try our best to do what we can, yeah, we'll still get in, but we'll be judged according to what our works were. If our works don't match what the scrolls are, then obviously we don't have faith. So then everybody, now look, and even look at this. Here's eternity and time again. It says in the same place in Revelation where it talks about in the same place in Revelation chapter 20 that those who are, we're talking about the second death. So those that are dead and buried, they'll be resurrected. It says, and even those who are in the waters will be resurrected, and even those that are in hell will also come up. But it's like, well, wait a minute, if they're in hell, how can they be judged? But we're talking about like eternity and time coming together. It's a very, it's hard. It gets to a place where I don't know how to even explain it all the time yet. I see it. And I get some of it. Some of it I can't, his ways are not my ways. Some of it the answer is I don't know. But these persons are in hell, and yet at the same time can be judged again to see if they got it together, because Christ is also in hell, where David said, even if I slip up and I go to hell, you are there with me. He was talking about Christ. So even Christ himself, who went to hell, is in time. Yes, he got up already. And in time, there is no, grave victory, you have nothing over us. In time, these things are true, but at the same time, in eternity, Christ is there still with those who end up in hell, giving them an opportunity to say, hey, you got it wrong, but there's an opportunity for you to be judged again and not have to experience the second death, when not only the devil and his imps and hate, and hell is tossed into the lake of fire, but also you don't want to be tossed into the lake of fire. So really, hell doesn't even burn until it's tossed in the lake of fire, which means when Christ is talking about what's going on, he's actually talking about in the future, right, in eternity. But in the future, he's talking about somebody who is actually burning and is asking, basically like, hey, can I go back and tell my brothers and sisters? And he doesn't even realize in this situation that's going on, hell has already been thrown into the lake of fire, and so have you. So Lazarus, the rich man who's asking for this, isn't even in the, or is Lazarus the poor man or the rich man? I always mix it up, but whichever one he is in this situation, the rich man who did wrong and did the poor man dirty, all that time, the rich man is literally saying, hey, please let me go back, go back and this and that or whatever, and not even realize, hey, you're in second death territory. There's not even an opportunity at this point, but he doesn't realize, right? We're talking about eternity, time, all these different things that are going on. So it's it's a lot of moving parts, and some of it really, I don't know how much more of it past that I get to before I have to start like kind of giving my opinion, and like I don't want to necessarily steer you guys down that route because that'll mess us up.
Well,
But hopefully that helps out some. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the call in. All praises to the Most High. And thank you for everything that you do, Elder Anais. Elder Anais, very faithful, very committed, always doing what she's supposed to in the will of Yah. At least as far as I know, she probably said, no, that's not true. But as far as what I see, always very committed and very faithful. So today we're using this as a Q&A session again today. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to call in or feel free to put something in the chat, and we will try to get to you as best as we can. I hope I didn't miss anything in the chat earlier. I'm trying to scroll back. I don't think I missed anything. I didn't see anything. So if there be any questions, comments, or concerns, anybody have anything else? If not, I will not prolong it. We don't have to go the full time. But if there be any other questions, comments, or concerns, if there be anybody have something for us, feel free, whether you want to call in or put it in the chat. It is up to you. As a matter of fact, I'll give a couple, let's give a few seconds or maybe even a minute or so, just in case somebody does have something. I got to actually do something real quick, and I will be right back. So hopefully we'll have something, or if somebody does try to call in, I miss you, we'll come right back to you. All right. All right. I apologize. I'm back. So if there are any other questions, comments, concerns, if not, I will not hold you. Like I said, any updates on the Passover gathering? Yeah, so we're going to put out again. We did put out a link. We emailed the link out to everybody, but I know it was during, everybody's been traveling and, doing whatever, some celebratory things too, et cetera, et cetera. So we are going to put out a link again on different social media platforms and send it out via email later today. There's a lot of stuff that you'll be getting emails about today. So if you want to look, but we'll try to put it up a couple times. But yeah, we are in Eastern Tennessee. So as far as Passover specifically, we are going to be looking at doing Passover in Eastern Tennessee. I still don't have the city name as of yet. We're looking at getting 1 to 2 big Airbnb type places to where everybody can have their own space, but we can be in the same place at the same time. And we're going to ask for a certain amount per family. So that means if you bring in just yourself by yourself, or if you bring in, if you bring in 50, 11 persons, we might have to have a conversation about some of the stuff, but like even up to, I think our biggest family that shows up, right, is, oh wow, 8 strong, right? 8 strong. So even if you be up to 8, it's okay. Or we'll work with you. Just let us know. But we'll, I think we're looking at 200 to 215 per family. If you're able to help, and then we're asking questions like if you're willing to carpool, or you're coming in by plane or whatever it is, bus, etc. So we can know some of those things or whatever. But we have a form to fill out. Make sure we know if there's any allergies, anything like that. Yeah, we're looking at the actual official dates of doing things of being March 31st through April 2nd. Technically, I think we're trying to make sure that we get the building or the houses open to us, or it might even do some cottage type stuff. We're looking at different things, but we're hoping to have something like that where we're all pretty much, if we're not in the same place, we're right next to each other. So we don't really have to do much traveling, or if we do, we pretty much just kind of go for walks or some things together, or maybe eat outside or do something like that. But we're looking at persons being able to come into a place and come in on the 30th. So hopefully, we'll have it set up wherever we get, you'll be open to come in on March 30th. And then we'll be able to do everything we're saying through April 2nd, because that'll be the day that everybody can leave. If I'm not mistaken, I think March 30th is a Monday. And so we'll have 4 days starting on that Monday. So everybody be able to leave out on that Thursday. So yeah, that also means if you're coming, you might have to, in advance, like we've taught some of you to do as well, like go to your bosses or whatever you need to and ask, because of your religious belief, say that you need these days off, or go to your school, do the same thing. Right? You said bring them. That's right. But yeah, that'll be it. So we had already put out an email to you guys. If we have your email addresses, you should have received something from us. About it, but we even have updated it since. It didn't have the pricing and stuff like that in there before, and I think I accidentally have put one of the same questions in there twice. But outside of that, it's pretty much the same form. So if you filled it out, let us know. We'll talk more about it Monday for our project management meeting. For those who do that meeting, for persons who do things behind the scenes, we'll talk more about that on Monday. And then really at this point, we just need to start promoting. And those who are coming, we need your help. We can probably take care of some of it now, but we can't take care of all of it, especially if we're talking about getting 2 spots. So, even if persons give us donations to help us in the future, we still might have to, make sure that stuff is given back. At least some of it is given back as much as we can, right? So if you are planning on coming, you might want to save up that $250. Of course, Feast of Tabernacles, same price as last year for if you're coming or whatever, but we're asking for at least $250 per family. That'll make sure the bare minimum we can take care of the place, we can take care of food, and and we might after that. Now, depending on if you want to, but I'm going to do with my family and those who can make it. So even if you don't make it to Passover, you want to come to both, or if you want to, whatever. I'm not sure of the date for this part yet. After we finish with the feast of, after we finish with Passover, that starts. So April 1st is Passover. Starting April 2nd it starts the Feast of Unleavened Bread that goes April 2nd through the 8th. I'm not sure we're going to do the whole 2nd through the 8th, but my family, what I am led to do is to take us over to the Noah's Ark replica that's been created in Kentucky. So we're going to go right up the road from Tennessee to Kentucky and at least spend a couple nights, if not maybe a little more up there, so we can go to the Noah's Ark thing. So if you'd like to go there with us, that would be a nice little thing that maybe we can do as a community for a Feast of Unleavened Bread. But we're going to go, you get your tickets or whatever. We'll make sure that we spend some time and we really go through, and it's supposed to be a replica. It's not exact, but it's something that you can see where you're like, oh, wow. Like I can see like how much it was, how much time it might have taken. Why did it take 480 years? Look at the top of it. Where's the window at? Where would the animals have been at, et cetera, et cetera. So if that's something that might interest you, we're looking at doing that as well. So we'll have more information as far as filling out the form. We'll send that stuff out to you. The dates that we're looking at, once again, the official dates of actually coming together and doing official things on those dates will be March 31st, April 1st, April 2nd. Of course, it'll be virtual as well, but physically those who are coming, and then Feast of Unleavened Bread. Right after that, we're looking at going up to the replica. So if you want to do one or the other, or if you think you want to do both, now I'm going to just tell you straight up, if you're doing the Feast of Unleavened Bread trip with us up to, and or going to meet us over there for Noah's Ark piece of things for the replica. That'll just be on you, kind of like bring your own, bring it BYO whatever. Right, that'll be on you. So if we do find something, if we say, hey, let's do something together, that'll be us talking, right? So if we're like, hey, let's all get together, or let's spin blah blah, or what, let's just get a really nice time out. If we want to do that, we can come up with that. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not in a position, nor is SOC in a position to say this is blah blah blah, whatever. Like, we can make sure we meet up and spend some time. That'll be something that'll just kind of like be a family environment. We just chill or whatever. Okay, so those are just a couple things to give you a timeline on dates. If we do the replica of Noah's Ark, I would say that we probably would do it sometime around the 4th or the 5th of April, right? And technically the Feast of Unleavened Bread goes through the 8th. So, if we find out more things through that or whatever, but I'm just being honest with, that's one of those things to where I'm going to take my hands off a little bit, and I'm not going to be, I'm going to try my best. We got help. We said we've been praying for laborers. If persons have ideas and stuff like that, you come about, you want to get something to start, of course, let's get it in. Right. But that might be one of those things where it's like, hey, you know what? I'll follow somebody else on this one. I'm just trying to go and see the replica, right? So we'll do stuff live, of course, as far as live sessions. We'll do stuff as far as things specifically for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We'll probably even have some really special sermons and stuff that we give persons the opportunity to speak and preach on certain nights and things like that. And also that'll be following right after we did the 7 last words too. So there's a lot of stuff like that. Also, too, to make it known, we have been invited virtually to the same assembly we're going to be helping to baptize the pastor and anybody else that wants to be baptized, SOC or otherwise, as followers of the way on June. No, sorry. Yeah, no. July 18th. The same group that we're doing a baptism for up there, they've actually invited us April 18th. They would like for myself and 2 other preachers to be ready to preach for their 7 last word service. So we're gonna have a lot of stuff going on there, right? 7 last words, Passover, removing the leaven from our home, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and then right after we finish all that, fellowshipping with somebody else and using our gifts to make sure that we evangelize and use this word properly to spread the true and living Yah to others. So we're excited about that. So a lot of stuff going on. Amen. All right. Anything else? Questions, comments, concerns? Amen. Any other questions, comments, or concerns before we get ready to roll out? Oh, you did ask that. And I think I asked you, but I didn't even see it in the chat, to be honest with you. So this is totally on me, Minister Roz. My fault, bro. You did ask that. Are we talking about the same Barabbas that was? Oh, you were talking about Barabbas. Okay, you're talking about Barabbas. Give us Barabbas, right? You're talking about the one who was let go before Christ. Okay, all right. I was talking about Barnabas in my head when you said it. I think I said something about Barnabas or about Paul because I was totally off. Okay. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm looking up something because I'm gonna be honest. I don't believe. So the only name we really have, biblically speaking, now there's other persons who try to say that his name was like, I think the thing goes, if I'm not mistaken, I wanted to look it up. I'm pretty sure we don't really know what his name was. There's persons who try to say that his name was Jesus Barabbas. Now, just to be like, I'm not sure, like, just to be sure, right? Just so to make it plain, the Bible does not say Barabbas. That we don't know if this is his so-called surname or this is his name. Now, back then, remember, they didn't really have surname, or they didn't really have. Remember, they didn't have like last names. Last names is something that persons had kind of versions of, but it was always you just basically saying you were the son of so and so, or so and so was your mother, or that you were so and so of such and such city. It wasn't until you get to places and more like England, even though there were others that did it in a similar fashion, but England is usually accredited the most because when they started getting bigger populations, they started just, instead of saying you're so and so from a city or you're so and so son from such and such city, they started saying, well, if we have, like, for example, if you have 2 Johns, right, and let's say your father was Ben, you might say your name is John Ben Son, and if there were 2 John Ben Sons, and you might say, okay, I'm John Ben Son from Castleberry. And if somebody says, what? Well, you say, I'm John Ben Son from Castleberry in London. Oh, okay. All right, cool. We know who you are. That's how you would present yourself. Eventually, what we call certain, these surnames or last names, they were given to knights, right? So it'd be Sir so-and-so. So if you were so-and-so's son, you would be so-and-so, Sir so-and-so, or so-and-so, son of Sir so-and-so. And that begins to start turning into giving them actual last names. And so this last name, now how we track a family, right? So biblically speaking, in those times, there is no, like, if they say that's Baraba, Barabbas or Barabas or Barabbas, as we would say, if they're saying that's his name, right, then they're saying like that's what he was known by, right? Like even in the Bible, when it says Judas, technically the name Judas is Judah, and there were 2 Judahs, right? So when you hear he is Judas Iscariot, Judas Iscariot actually is like somebody contributing something where now we're calling him a name, right? Or basically like using ad hominem against him. He's Judas Iscariot. All right, matter of fact, just to double check and make sure, right? Because I think I'm about to tell you the wrong thing for his so-called last name. Or actually, let me do it like this. Sorry. I'm sorry about that, Bruda. My bad. So Iscariot is a Greek name, right? So if you look at Iscariot in the Greek, it basically is it's kind of like a slur now, but I think okay, I can't find it. I think technically it's actually a Greek name of a Israelite city, right? I think it's actually a Greek name. I think the name actually in Hebrew means like man of Kerioth or Karayat or something like that, which was a Hebrew city. So his name is actually still saying the city he's from, which really he would have been known as Judah, the son of so and so, who is from that place, right? But because of now is thinking about surnames, he just known as Judas Iscariot, and now Iscariot has become a slur, right? But there were actually two Judases, because the word Judas is just the word Judah. It's a different dialect being spoken. So Judah the Maccabee, you could refer to him in the Greek as Judas, right? As well. So that's why you call him Judas. And then over time, what happens is, well, we don't want Judah to be confused with Judas, because Judas did wrong. So rather than just be like, hey, this person named Judah, this particular Judah did wrong, they separate and they say Judas Iscariot did versus so and so did, right? Same thing happens, like a lot of persons don't want you to know that Joshua, if you're using that term, that Yeshua, Joshua, that comes from Yahashua, all that, right? They don't want you to know that Joshua is the name of who you call Jesus. So they'll just say that it's Jesus the Christ. Jesus, half man, half Zeus, and then they'll say this is Joshua. But if they both have the same name, why would you not call them the same name, right? So sometimes, and sometimes, to be honest, sometimes they're doing it not even maliciously. Sometimes, for example, if you know about Julius Caesar, and then he has an adopted son that he gives all his money to, who some think might have actually been his real son, but his son Augustus Caesar. They called him August or Augustus even, or Augustus Caesar, but that's not his actual name, right? When his father gave him the inheritance, right, and adopted him officially and said, "This is all yours." When he got there, his name was actually Julius August, or it was actually Julius Caesar. So technically, today we would look at him as Julius Caesar Jr. But persons give him this name Augustus, right? And they say that's his name because they don't want you to get confused. So persons who think of him as August, right? They're like, okay, let's just go ahead to make sure that you know, because if you're not careful, because a lot of persons don't know, the history is very similar. There was a civil war with Julius Caesar the first. There's a civil war with Julius Caesar the second, or Augustus, right? There was a triumvirate for Julius Caesar the first. There was a triumvirate for Julius Caesar the second, right? Julius Caesar the first went to Kemet and had to fight. Julius Caesar the second went to Kemet and had to fight. So if you're not aware that there's one or the other, you might get them mixed up. Just like even with Hannibal, there's Hannibal the father, there's Hannibal the son. Hannibal the son is the one that has the more fame and acclaim, but Hannibal the father is the one who actually started the war and had Hannibal the son make a blood oath to say that he would try to fight off and kill off the Romans in the Phoenician Wars. So sometimes persons change names up just to make sure that you're not actually messing up. Problem with that is, though, if they don't teach you, hey, I'm telling you, call him August because I don't want you to get July confused with July, or Julius confused with Julius, right? So they'll tell you, hey, so historians take it and change it, right? So that being said, back to Barabbas, right? Or I'm sorry, so back to Barabbas. Barabbas, all that being said, he would have had, his name is Barabbas. If anything else, he comes from a city. Now with the other stuff with Barabbas, where I have heard, and I did find this to be able to read through, right, to make sure, because it's been a long time since I've gone over this in particular. But yes, there are persons that try to say there's evidence for him being Jesus Barabbas. Problem with this is that we know that Jesus was not the name of Christ. There was no letter J. And so if somebody says that there's we find Jesus Barabbas, you can't find Jesus Barabbas, number one. So that's kind of off, right? Just once again, when we know the culture, we can just point at it real quick and be like, wait a minute, how you going to say that the letter J in the just sound existed, and we know that it couldn't have existed then? So right then, we can kind of throw that to the side. But once again, there are persons who will say that it was preserved in certain Greek manuscripts and ancient Syriac American versions, right? Which means that Syriac American versions, we're talking about something way different, something way further in the future. So we can push that to the side for a second. And we're talking about the Greek or the Septuagint. Well, that's when they start calling him half man, half Zeus. So if they're calling him half man, half Zeus, and then somebody's saying, well, give us Barabbas, and somebody puts those two things together, we can kind of see really quick with connotation and say, oh, these cats are kind of off with the sound, right? We can see that they're not on point, right? So just that in and of itself, we start seeing some different things, etymology wise, historically, etc. Just one more point real quick, just to bring out some of you never even heard of that before. So just in case you run into somebody that says there's Jesus and Barabbas are the same, just like people try to say the Messiah and the devil are the same. Barabbas itself means son of the father. And so in our mind, we go, son of the Father, he must be Jesus Barabbas, right? No, that's not how it works. It means son of the Father. Yeah, okay, son of the Father. First of all, you're talking about Aramaic, which is not what the Hebrews were speaking. That being said, though, it is pretty close to that, right? Bar is son. Ra is head of, right? So we see already in that, right? If we know culture, we know the context, and we know how characters work, we see pretty quickly, okay, like I can see kind of how you got there. The problem is just because somebody has a name like son of the Father doesn't mean they're doing things that are righteous, right? David, his name means beloved, right? Beloved. But beloved sinned, right? So because his name means beloved doesn't mean he didn't sin. No, right. And by the way, if my people who are called by my name, we were named after Yah, Yadamayah, right? Yasayah, Ananayah, Hananayah, Azarayah, right? Hazayah, right? Hezekiah. You see, like all these different things. Daniel, El, Al, Elacham, right? We're named after the Most High, right? That's what we're supposed to be. So if we're named after the Most High, just because we have his name, does that mean that we will not sin or fall short? No. So even if his name is Barabbas, it doesn't mean that he was Christ. Now, if you confuse things culturally, if somebody even did a little bit of research to shoot them some bail, if somebody does a little bit of research, you could even see somebody going, well, I can see what you're saying, but also to keep it a buck, to keep it real, isn't Christ? And I can see somebody coming to this perception, right? Like Christ is supposed to be the sacrificial lamb, and he's supposed to, right? So he's also the high priest, right? If we talking about Day of Atonement, right? So he's also the high priest. He's a sacrificial lamb. He's also the father, the olive, the bull that's sacrificed during this as well, right? He's clean as well. So he's the water. He's the bowl. He's also the one that will allow us to go behind the curtain. He'll rip the veil. He's the one that becomes a sacrifice. His blood is what's required in place of us. He represents all these things. Why is it that he can't represent the scapegoat? So you might try to put, as they would say, Jesus and Barabbas together. I could see it. It's not correct, right? But I can see where somebody might get that from, or see where somebody has taken that and kind of exacerbated the situation and just uses this. It's somewhat apologetically sound to do so. It's at least they are not coming to conclusions randomly. Problem is, though, it is Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't mean you just out there stupid or something. Dunning-Kruger effect in your studies is somebody that basically swears that they know something and they keep going down a road of thought process and come to find out that's not the road that they should be going down, but they might not know it. It's kind of like persons who go, I'm going to follow this ancient alien cat. The ancient aliens guy that be having who got the 15 head. No offense to anybody. I'm just saying, he got that 15 head. He be having that crazy hair and all that stuff. I'm not even sure how aware he is of it. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe he's doing it on purpose. But I don't think a lot of persons recognize and realize, like even with him, right, that he's using stuff that comes from racism. That Black folk couldn't have built stuff, persons of color couldn't have built stuff, right? So when we find stuff that Native Americans built and stuff that Africans built, it has to be aliens. Because at first it was white persons have to build it. A lot of you don't even know. There was a guy who worked for Adolf Hitler, and he was a historian, and he was going to do all these different things and stuff. And he was going to go around the world. He had it set up. He had the money set aside. Finally, he had gotten permission. He was going to go all around the world and prove to everybody that all ancient civilizations that have ever been built, right? All the ones like that built things like pyramids and built anything, he was going to go around and prove to everybody that his race, the great Aryan race, these Germanic persons, right? They weren't even really the Germanic persons they thought, but these Germanic persons were going to go around and they were going to show everybody that everything that was built by ancient Germans. Right, that's the kind of mindset they had at that time. The only reason why he didn't get to go on this trip was because that World War II started. If World War II didn't start, he was about to go around and in his mind prove to everybody that everything that was ever created was created by ancient Germans. So a person can have like a really weird perception and way of thinking of things, and sometimes we go along with it and we don't call it out. Like, hey, where's the standard? Like, what is this? Is something somebody can say the same about ourselves, which they should. That's why we do Q&A. Somebody should be able to say, where are you getting this from? All right. Anyway, sorry about that. Real quick question. How do we reconcile the Bible with the Torah and the Talmud? There are so many contradictory texts. Well, first of all, the Talmud is not even original. The Talmud is something that we know is made up, and a lot of it is made up of folklore. The Talmud says that it's okay to R-word girls, no matter what. The Talmud says it's okay to off somebody and take their life if they're not an Israelite. That's not really something that we would live by or go into, right? So if we're talking about the Talmud and the Torah, right, somebody later on came in through history and said that when Moses came down from the mountain, that one stone was supposed to be the Ten Commandments, the other stone was supposed to be the beginning of the Talmud. That's a lie, right? Or just like Talmudic persons tell you about Lilith. If a lot of you who talk about Lilith and stuff, you don't know that that's a folklore thing you're not supposed to deal with, right? If you hear about Talmudic stuff says that priests can literally use their mouths to be able to take foreskin off of children. Yes, I'm not making that up. It's a totally different delineation, right? A total different way of looking at stuff. Persons who are trying to use the Talmud and that they have cognitive dissonance. There's a dichotomy going on there, competing outlooks on things. The Talmud doesn't say that the Most High is without question. The Talmud says, even though we can ask questions, but it says that our ways are not his ways in the Torah, right? The Talmud says that a priest can out argue the Most High, and has. Right, like they're not the same. So when persons say that, once again, you got to real. Now, here's another thing. If you're not aware of it, here's another thing that maybe you've never heard of. That persons who believe in the Talmud, they tell persons, especially in modern Israel today, they will tell them that the Talmud is the Torah, right? And that's a lie. So a lot of persons will tell you that they know the Torah. Now, once again, we don't know what Terach or Torah or Torah means, right? So Torah or Torah actually means the guide, the doctrine, what leads us. Doctrine is another word for instruction, right? So when you hear somebody talk about doctrine and Torah are the same word, right? When you use it in New Testament as doctrine, you don't realize that when it's saying New Testament doctrine just means instruction. And because you've been told a lie, most have been told a lie, that the Greek was half the Bible was written in Greek, half the Bible was written in Hebrew, then they're using those Greek words to get the doctrine and these Hebrew words to get the Torah, but they're the same word, by the same culture, by the same people. Oh, okay. I missed it then. All right. Well, there's stuff going on. All right. Well, I appreciate your journey and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. But thank you for being on. We appreciate you. So we're actually at our time. Thank you so much. We got to get ready. Let these babies get ready for their Shabbat school. So we'll let you guys get ready for Shabbat school. Thank you for being on. We thank you so much. And we honor your presence. We hope that you guys continue to do great things. Love you all. And I hope that you guys, just continue to reach for new heights and be what Yahweh has called you to be, right? Give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay. So anyway, so we can get ready to dismiss. Thank you once again for being on. Thank you so much for being with us. We very much so appreciate you. And hopefully you guys continue to do well. Right after this, baby's gonna have Shabbat school, 12:15 p.m. New York time. We'll swing back around for the watch party. Those who'd like to be part of the international meeting / some of the teaching that's going to be SOC University level type stuff will be on at 2 p.m. New York time for that. Hopefully you can join us from around the world. 7 p.m. New York time. We will ensure that we will be on for our men's meeting, first men's meeting of the year. All right. So love you all. Thank you again. Right. Or even I love you with the love of Christ, with the Messiah type love. And until I have the chance to be before you again, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor them for my wife, the Honorable Maya. To all of you, we are honored and grateful to be in front of your presence. And remember, as always, beloved, that you are loved. You're necessary. You're majestic. You're fearfully, wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom. Take care. Thank you again. Have a great day.